So you finally decided to take your PMP exam. Let's talk about how to ace this thing. Hello YouTube family, welcome back to my channel. I'm Christina and this is the Cultivated Planner. If you missed the name change, then definitely check out the last video where I go over why I did that in a little bit of detail. But today we are going to be talking about the PMP exam and how I was able to pass that on the first try. Now, this is a hard exam. I'm not going to lie to you. My office actually sponsored a bunch of us taking it and I was the only one that passed. But today I'm going to be sharing my tips and tricks. The best way to tackle this is through preparation. So let's talk about how I did that. To start off, we're first going to have to talk about the eligibility requirements. And before you can even sit for the exam, you do have to meet certain requirements. Depending on when you're watching this, the eligibility requirements might be different. So for safekeeping, I'm going to say make sure you go to pmi.org to check out what the requirements are at the time that you're watching this video. You can find the eligibility requirements at pmi.org. Then you click on certifications, go to PMP, and then scroll down to Am I Eligible? As of right now, depending on whether or not you have a 4-year degree or a high school diploma, you're going to need a certain amount of education hours as well as hours actually leading projects. You're going to document this out for them on the application as well as provide contact information for the supervisors that were present during that time. Once you have all of those requirements met, then you'll go ahead and submit the application. They will review it. They may select you for an audit where they'll contact these supervisors that you gave them contact information for. And then once approved, they'll actually from that point give you authorization to take the PMP exam. You have to have that authorization first in order to take it. Let's talk about those education hours a little bit more, as this is where the real exam preparation starts. And in order to get those 35 hours, which at the time of recording this, it is 35 hours of project management education that is needed. But in order to get that, you have to go through a prep course from an authorized PMI vendor. So that is going to be the next step. To meet my 35-hour requirement, I took a 1-week boot camp prep course years ago. My employer actually paid for this. I don't know if I'm going to be able to find the link for that because I truly don't even remember the name of the course, but you can go to pmi.org to find authorized vendors, which is the safest way. You don't want to take a course and the hours are not accepted. So go straight to pmi.org, go to learning, then go to authorized training partners, discover a course, select PMP from the filters along with any other applicable filters for you, such as location, delivery method, etc. And then find the course that is appropriate for you. The course that I took and what I believe should be included in any PMP prep course contained the most recent version of PMI's PMBOK. They gave you a copy of that. You also received a slide deck that had very comprehensive slides with content taken straight from the PMBOK. And then it also included an online learning program that contained modules and quizzes for each chapter of the PMBOK, as well as an unlimited amount of practice exams. And hopefully you can find a course that gives you an unlimited amount of practice exams. I'm going to talk about that a little bit later because it is very important to do multiple project exams over and over again before the actual exam. So make sure, hopefully, that you can have that included, but that's what the course that I took contained. As I mentioned before, the course that I took was a 1-week-long intensive program. This was because my employer sponsored it and we did do it during work hours. So they wanted us to finish this in the shortest amount of time possible, which is understandable, but you do not have to do this to yourself. You can do a 1-week course or you could do a 6-week course. And I think they have other, lengths of programs. So check that out on pmi.org and see what works best for you. But once you complete your program, whatever course that is, you should receive a certificate of completion. And that is what you're going to use along with your experience leading projects and that documented out. Both of those things together are going to be needed to submit the PMP application. And then once you get approved, you can be authorized to take the exam. Once you receive the authorization to take the PMP exam from PMI, then the next step is to schedule the exam. Put it on the calendar. Don't wait months and months until you feel ready. Put it on the calendar now. You might wait and push it off and study 1 week and then not study the next, and then information is no longer going to be fresh in your mind. And I would go as far as to say, don't even go through the process of getting the education hours if you're gonna sit there and wait months and months and months and months before you take the exam. Go ahead, put it on this calendar, put that fire under your belly, and then go ahead and start studying. You have a deadline that you're working towards, and that's just going to be the extra motivation. And even more of a motivator is you have to be mindful that PMP or PMI changes the exam every few years. They add things and make changes, and that is going to change the actual exam. And so you don't want to be caught in a year, I actually was, you don't want to be caught in a year where the PMP exam is switching over and all that you studied is no longer going to be relevant on the exam, or some of the things that you studied is no longer going to be relevant on the exam. That can dock your score. And so once you take those education hours and you get that authorization, schedule it. If you think you need a couple of months, that's okay, but schedule it and then make sure that you're preparing for that every single week up until the time of your exam. Once you have your exam scheduled, now it's time to create your study materials. And this is important. I know that because of the prep course, you're going to have your slide deck and a notebook probably full of notes that you took. But it's important to actually from there create study materials that kind of condenses the information into as few pages as possible, because you're going to be looking at this multiple times between exams, between practice exams, between quizzes, all of that. So the study materials is an important piece of how I was able to prepare. So I'll walk you through what I created. Keep in mind that what I created is from the 5th edition of the PMBOK, and at the time of filming this, PMI is on the 7th edition. I don't know if I'm going to be updating it, but I will show you here what I used. The first document is a cheat sheet, and this includes high-level definitions, concepts, and overall things that you need to remember. It's going to have a ton of information. And so for me, I put this in landscape format in 2 columns on either side of the screen so that I can get a lot of information on one page. And I think this ended up being like 4 or 5 pages long. I'll be showing it here on the screen so you can see it. But this is a great format. I've used this for other exams as well. So this is a great format to get a lot of information. This is the cheat sheet. The second document that I created was the ITTO's study sheet, and this had every single process for project management outlined, as well as their ITTOs, which is the inputs, tools and technologies, and outputs. And this is definitely on the PMP exam. You absolutely need to know what the inputs, outputs, the full ITTO, you need to know what that is because it's going to be asked in multiple places throughout the PMP exam. The third and final document that I created was the formula brain dump sheet, and this includes all the math problems because you are going to need to know that there are several, but I called it a formula brain dump sheet because at the time that I took my exam, and I believe they still do this, I'm not sure if they do this for virtual, but once you sit for the exam and they say start, you're able to brain dump all of the information that you think would be helpful for you during the exam. For me, this was going to be math problems. I needed to remember the formulas, and so this sheet helps me to memorize those formulas and to write them down. So those are the documents that I created. You are going to go over these every single day, multiple times a day between now and whenever you scheduled your exam. Test yourself on it and have other people test you on it. For me, I also printed it and I always had it available with me. I would put it in my purse, and whenever I had free time, I would pull it out, look over the cheat sheets. I also had blank pieces of paper with me so I can also brain dump my formulas. So I would look over the cheat sheets, brain dump the formulas, look over the cheat sheets, brain dump the formulas. Do that over and over and over again. And every time you take an exam, a practice exam, make sure to look over those items, brain dump the formulas, and then take the exam. So that is the order in which I did things. These cheat sheets are very important. Don't skip it and say, oh, I'll just review my notes. This is important, so make sure you create those cheat sheets. Next is to complete your chapter quizzes. Now, most likely you're going to have to do this in order to get your course certification, but if not, please make sure that you go through each of the chapter quizzes. This is really important because it helps you to lock in on specific areas where you may need more study time, specific chapters that you're not as strong with and you need to add more study time to. So make sure you go ahead and do all of the quizzes. Aim for 90s or above, but the best thing you can do is to aim for 100s across the board. So make sure you take those chapter quizzes. The next thing you're going to do is to take your practice exams, and you're going to take them over and over and over again. As I stated before, the course that I took gave me an unlimited amount of practice exams, and it regenerated new questions for me. So it wasn't just recycling questions. I prepared in about a 2-month period, and so the first month I took one exam every single day, one practice exam every single day, and in the second month I I took about 2 to 3 practice exams every single day. And as I stated in the last tip, I took my study materials, I went over each cheat sheet and brained up my formulas, and then took a practice exam. And then did the same thing over and over again. Reviewed my study sheets, brained up my formulas, and then took a practice exam. So make sure that you're doing that over and over and over again. Like I said, the first month I did 1 a day, and then as I got closer, I did 2 to even 3 times a day taking practice exams, and I really felt prepared. As I stated for the quizzes, make sure you're getting a 90 or above, but the best thing you can do is to aim for hundreds across the board. Please note that the exam has very situational based questions, not definition based. It's not black and white like the CAPM. The PMP exam asks very situational questions. So it's important that you know this information through and through. It's important. That's why I said go through the quizzes, aim for hundreds, go through the practice exams, aim for hundreds. And once you do that, you will be more than prepared to take this exam. You will know this information like the back of your hand, and that is the key here, is to know it through and through, and then you can pass. So by the time you get to exam day, you are going to be more than prepared. On the morning of the exam, make sure that you eat something light. Don't eat anything too heavy where your belly's gonna be rumbling and tumbling while you're taking your exam. Drink a little bit of water. Don't do too much on the water, and now you have to use the bathroom every 5 seconds during the exam. That's what's gonna stress you out. So eat something light, drink something light. Make sure to show up early to your exam, earlier than needed. Probably like an hour early, okay? And that might sound ridiculous, but I like to get there early. I don't wanna be stressed out. I don't wanna be frantic trying to figure out where this thing is, especially if it's a location that you haven't been to before. Get there early, sit in your car or in a waiting area and review your materials. The same thing you've been doing before, reviewing your study materials and brain dumping your formulas. You may not need to brain dump your formulas on exam day, but make sure you're reviewing all your materials, making sure it's nice and fresh in your mind and ready for dumping as soon as you walk in, okay? You're going to make sure that you're calm, you're relaxed, say a prayer, and then you will be just fine. All these steps have prepared you, and so believe in that and walk into your exam confident, because you are going to pass this thing. So those were the tips that I used to ace my exam on the first try. I scored in the highest percentile, and I believe you can too. Just don't skip these steps. Be confident, be disciplined, and you will be able to do it too. So that is all. Remember that you can book me for coaching calls and resume review sessions. I have linked that down below. And I also sell very comprehensive project management templates for project managers in my Etsy shop. So go ahead and check that out as well. I will link that. I hope you found this video helpful. Thank you so much for watching. If you did, give it a thumbs up and subscribe for more videos like this from me. I will see you guys in the next one.